was he spit in the ground and he mixed it. He did work on the Sabbath. So though he healed him, the way he healed him was he broke the Sabbath. Now, before we go crazy and think that these Pharisees are legalistic and a bit rigid, too much, the reason this was so important was about 150 years ago, there was a battle in Jerusalem, and a Gentile king who cared nothing about God or their faith destroyed and attacked Jerusalem, and he desecrated the temple. But there was one time where on the Sabbath day, this Gentile king and his armies invaded Jerusalem, invaded people's homes, invaded caves where people were hiding, and since it was the Sabbath, he slaughtered 1,000 of them, and none of the Jews fought back because it was the Sabbath. So 1,000 of them just died without fighting back to honor the Sabbath. Now that is in the memory. So now 100-something years later, these Pharisees are very particular about respecting the Sabbath because a few hundred years ago, thousands of people died honoring the Sabbath. So what? Who cares about carrying a tool? Just don't do it. Honor the memory of these people who died to keep their identity and their faith. That's why they're so particular. Now, they may have forgotten about the story, and they may have forgotten about the 1,000 men who died, but they've kept that anxiety about breaking the Sabbath and dishonoring the past. They wanted to honor the past, so they kept it meticulously, rigidly, almost fanatically, and in a way, because they wanted to honor it, they lost sight of how it wasn't really helping the people in the present, because they wanted to honor that past. Do you see now why they may be a bit particular about the Sabbath? And what Jesus did was he broke it to heal this man. And so he put these Pharisees in a tough place. Because he now says the purpose of the Sabbath is to heal and to provide life. But because you wanted to honor the memory of those who have gone before, you have lost sight of the purpose of the Sabbath. And so I now will heal this man in this way. And this poor young man, who was a nuisance to nobody, now is a problem. What does it mean when you become a problem? That is a question a famous African-American writer once wrote. He said, what does it mean to become a problem? Now he is a problem. And he has terrible publicity. And now, when no one paid him any attention, here come all these Pharisees asking him about his past. Were you really born blind? Denying his past. Can you imagine? You were not born blind. And he's saying, I was blind. No, you weren't. Maybe it was someone else. Because they needed to make sure that he was never blind. Because if he was blind, then Jesus did the miracle. And if Jesus did the miracle of giving him sight, then Jesus must be from God. So they have a situation now where Jesus broke the Sabbath, therefore he's a sinner, but he gave sight to a man, therefore he is from God. And so the situation now is this young man who bothered nobody is caught having to now explain his experience amongst angry, anxious people. And it is a serious thing. But this is the miracle. The miracle of insight. Where you know your truth and you know your experience and you don't deny your truth or your experience because it will anger, upset, or you will be threatened by those on the outside. The miracle of insight is a miracle of conviction. When you know your truth within you and what God did in your life, and though you may express it, it may bother people's ideas of who God is or what God does, but you still need to say your experience because that is what God did in your life. You got to stay convicted. That is the miracle that gives glory to God. The miracle of sight got this young man in a bunch of trouble. But the miracle of insight is what allowed him to shine so that God's glory became revealed. Yeah. He was in a tough spot. And he was in a tough spot with his parents. Because the Pharisees wanted to prove that he was not born blind. So what did they do? They asked his mom and dad, "Is this your son? Was he born blind?" And what did his mother and father do? They threw him under the bus. They said, "Don't ask us. Ask him. He's old enough. He has a driver's license. He's of age. Ask him. He will tell you." Why? Because they didn't want to get cut off from the community. They didn't want that. So they were afraid. And so they let him answer it. So now without his parents' backing, he still has the conviction to express his experience of God. He's being attacked, he's being deserted, but he still maintains his truth. And when you watch his responses, they grow in strength. Yeah. He says, "I don't know about who he was, I just know he was Jesus. He was named Jesus." Then they ask him again, and he goes, "He must be a prophet, because only a prophet can do what God wills." Then they ask him again, and he says, "You know what? Whether he's a sinner or not, that I don't know. But this I know, I was once blind, but now I see." And it grows, and it grows, and his conviction grows, and they're getting angrier and angrier, and he's getting stronger and stronger, and as he gets stronger, we watch him, because he becomes a model for us. He shows us that when God is with you, and God touches you, and God strengthens you, though you may feel alone, even deserted by loved ones, you still have the strength to express what God did for you, and God won't desert you. Yeah. There he was. Now, he managed to still keep his conviction, and they finally did it. They kicked him out. They kicked him out. Now, this is not like getting kicked out of one church.